Okay, so councillors, staff, members of the gallery, welcome to this ordinary council meeting of the 26th of November 2025. Could I call upon Councillor Endres to make a civic affirmation?
We, the councillors of the Armidale region, declare that we will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of our community and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us to the best of our skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Endres, and Councillor Robinson to provide an acknowledgement of country.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. The Armidale regional community pays tribute to their love of land, love of people and love of culture.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson, and I'll call upon the General Manager to make a statement regarding live streaming.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings of the non-confidential parts of the meeting will be made available on the website. No other persons permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by council to do so, and could all mobile phones please be set to silent. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Councillors, I note there are no apologies and we have a full deck, which brings us to disclosures of interest. So having reviewed the agenda, does anyone need to declare a conflict of interest? All right, councillors, before we get into the body of the meeting, we will ask Barry Lee and Michael Karzoo from the Audit Office to provide or to present an overview of the firm's financial.
To present at your council meeting today. I assume that I can't see it on the screen, but I assume that our slides are being shared on a big screen somewhere for everyone to see. Okay, great. Yes, as I mentioned, my name is Michael Carson. I'm the director at the New South Wales Audit Office. I was responsible for the audit for the financial year 24-25, and also for the previous years. And as an associate director at our office, and was responsible for managing the audit. So our presentation will focus on the report on the conduct of the audit, and yes.
Working, you're coming in and out. We can see the screen. I don't know if you can turn your camera off. Yep, let's give that a go.
Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry about that. So our presentation will focus on our report on the conduct of the audit, which provides a summary of the audit results and also has some key information from the financial statements. And we also got some ratios that we've included in there that we think are relevant for the sector. Before I do that, I would just like to provide a quick update on our work program, which outlines our planned reports to Parliament going forward. If we could please move to the second slide, please. So as you know, our office has a mandate to audit local councils in New South Wales, and this includes both financial audits and performance audits. And while the financial audits are the audits of the financial statements, which is what we're covering today, performance audits can look at many different areas and consider whether council's activities are being carried out effectively, efficiently, and also in compliance with relevant laws and regulations. So the Auditor General recently prepared his annual work program, which outlines what we're focusing over the next couple of years. Please move to the next slide. And you should see there some of the key themes that we're going to be focusing on going forward. Efficiency and optimal use of public resources is a big one that is ingrained in a lot of our performance audits. There's also grants administration, major capital works, climate-related risks and opportunities, and also a focus on First Nations communities. Next slide, please. So in the near future, the performance audit reports that we're going to be tabling in Parliament are listed there. The first one's around long-term financial planning. You may or may not be aware that Armidale Regional Council is one of the councils selected for this audit, and the audit is at one of two councils selected for this audit, and this audit is currently being in progress. And this audit will be looking at, it's a planned series of audits really, so I'm assuming there's going to be further audits in this space in the future, but this is the first one, and we're going to be looking at whether councils have established effective and compliant long-term financial plans. Another report that we're going to be tabling quite soon, or in this coming financial year, is around effectiveness of ARICs, Audit Risk and Improvement Committees. We'll be looking at really how they're supporting councils, but at the same time how councils supporting ARICs to be able to deliver on their objectives. And there's also one currently in progress around local government recovery grants program. So this is effectively just looking at how Office of Local Government are administering the grant funding and ensuring it's in line with the guidelines. Next slide, please. And this in the forward years, I've got a few other ones there that might be of interest. We're doing a performance audit on major capital projects, and one on climate risks and adaptation, and also on waste management. So for some of these, it still hasn't come into, we still haven't scoped it out yet completely, but there's probably chances are a lot of times Armidale Regional Council won't be the auditee for a lot of these, but at the same time, they're still useful for council to consider because there's some insights that will be drawn out from those reports. Could please move to the next slide. So we also, in addition to the performance audits, we also table a report annually to Parliament which summarises our financial audits for the year, and some key focus areas for this coming report will be around obviously financial audit outcomes, also looking at financial sustainability, so looking at some ratios in that space, also looking at IT, cyber and artificial intelligence, and also, as I mentioned earlier, major projects is a key one, as well as internal controls and governance. Next slide, please. So now to the report on the conduct of the audit. So as you would know, we were able to issue clean audit opinions for council's 24-25 financial statements, and that was finalised within the statutory deadline of 31st of October this year. And so that's a good result, and we'd like to thank council and their staff for all their participation in helping us to get that audit completed on time. It's definitely much appreciated. Next slide, please. So just looking at some of the key information. So you should see there the income statement. And what you would see there is the rates and annual charges has increased by 4.1 million, so close to 10% from the previous year. And that is largely due to the special rate variation of 16.7% for the rates. Also, if you look there, there's some grants and contributions revenue, and you'll see that the grants and contributions from operating expenses decreased by 7.4 million. And this is mainly due to a decrease in the state government funding for roads, bridges, and also for assets impacted by natural disasters. There was also just generally a decrease in financial assistance grants, and from the councils that I'm responsible for, I'm seeing that as quite a common theme, where there's a decrease in those grants this year. In terms of grants and contributions provided for capital purposes, there was an increase of 18.4%, so $5.6 million for 24-25, and a large portion of that additional funding was non-cash contributions relating to the completed works in the Guyra and Armidale sale yards. So overall, the operating result for the year from continuing operations was a surplus of $30.5 million, which was a $4.6 million lower surplus compared to the previous year. And that decrease is mainly due to an additional $4.4 million increase in employee benefits. And this is largely due to the additional staff hired for the K2A project, and also the general increase in wages. Looking at the net operating result from before capital grants and contributions, you'll see that there was a deficit of $5.5 million compared to the previous year, where there was a $4.8 million surplus. And this was due to the decrease in grants and contributions for operating purposes, which I mentioned earlier, and also the increase in employee expenses. Next slide, please. So you should see there the operating result. I just thought I'd put that there. It's just to really visualize a little bit. So this over the last 3 years, our council have achieved surpluses of around $30 million, you'd say, each year on average. Slight decrease this year, which we've explained, but generally we're seeing a history of surpluses. Next slide, please. And this slide just got more of a breakdown of grants and contributions revenue. And as you can see, that there's been a gradual decrease in the overall grants and contributions received by Armidale Regional Council. And you'll see there that part of the graph, those bar graphs, the decreases really come across operating purposes. There's been large decreases year on year, and that's partially been offset by an increase in grants and contributions for capital purposes. Okay, I might hand it over to Barry, who can cover a little bit more information on liquidity ratios and also on IPP&E. Thank you, Barry.
Yes, Michael. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to present. I'll continue from slide number 11. The title is Unrestricted Current Ratio. So the unrestricted current ratio measures the council's ability to pay short-term obligations as they fall due, using assets not subject to external restrictions. As you can see on the slide, the ratio has improved since 2023, reaching 3.8 times at 30 June 2025. This means council's unrestricted current assets are 3.8 times its current liabilities, excluding specific purpose liabilities. And for context, the average unrestricted current ratio for regional council in 2024 was 3.1 times. On to the next section for financial position, moving to slide number 13. The title is Cash and Investments Overview. So these slides provide an overview of the council's cash equivalents, and investment at year end. So the total cash and cash investment increased to 155.3 million in 2025, up from 145.8 million in 2024. And of this, 119.1 million is externally restricted, meaning it can only be used for specific purposes. And the internal allocation account for 30.3 million, set aside by council policy for future needs. So the increase in external restriction is mainly due to the unspent grants and developer contribution received during the year. Moving on to the next slide on restricted cash. So this chart shows the main source of external restriction for cash, cash equivalent, and investments. So the largest balance are held for developer contributions, account for 16%, water 22%, and sewer 26%, and the specific purpose unspent loans and grants at 29%. And domestic waste management and other categories makes up the remainder of these restrictions. So these restrictions ensure that funds are available for the intended purposes to support long-term council infrastructure planning. Moving to the next slide, titled Council Liquidity. So the council liquidity reflects the ability to meet short-term financial obligations. The ratio here shown exclude external restricted balances, as they are not available for general use. So the council's ratio is relatively low due to an increase in employment benefit provisions and higher current liabilities. The council also maintains significant external restriction funds, which cannot be used to meet general obligations. And monitoring the liquidity is very important for financial sustainability. And now we're on to the last section of this presentation for infrastructure, property, plant, and equipment. On the slides titled Capital Expenditure by Asset Class, this slides break down the capital expenditure for 2024 to 25. The largest investment was in capital work in progress at 27 million, and they reflect major ongoing projects such as the K2A project. The road, bridge, footpath, and other road assets received 11.9 million addition, supporting essential transport infrastructure in the council region. And land and buildings saw 2.2 million increase, while airport infrastructure was at 2.5 million. And plant equipment furniture fittings accounted for 1.6 million in capital investment, with the other category includes 13.4 million for miscellaneous categories of capital spendings. And this summarizes, this concludes our presentation based on the report of conduct of the audit. And I too want to take the opportunity to thank the council staff members for their cooperation during the audit. And I would like to answer any questions the council might have on this audit. Thank you.
And Michael, councillors, are there any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I might just ask a quick question if I could. Question goes to Michael. Sorry, Michael, when you were doing your net operating results slide, we had an absolute deluge of rain and couldn't hear what you had to say. Would you be able to go back to the net operating slide and just walk us through that that context again? Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And also apologies from my side around the knowledge. It's not ideal. So yeah, happy to do that. So the operating result from continuing operations was there was
So I think there's a bit technology issue. Michael, if it's okay with you, I'll just represent the slides to the council on your behalf. So back to the slides number 9, operating results. So the operating result measures how much revenue exceeds expense from council's core operations. So you can see on the chart, since 2023, the council's operating result from continuous operation has improved overall, rising from 27.9 million in 2023 to 35.1 in 2024, before easing to 30.5 million this year. So this trend shows a stronger position compared to 2023, despite a slight decrease in the most recent years. And this is because the council's operations does get influenced by the amount of external funding that we receive. But we believe this result reflect a revenue growth and ongoing cost management by the council. Any other related to this slides or any other slides?
Hi, Michael. Michael, correct? The question, the question about increase in expenditure, and you mentioned K2A, that was a result. Now, that road is funded externally. Is the discrepancy or the increase related to the funds coming in not allocated in time, or do they come afterwards? And
so there's I think I understand your question. So there's two parts to it. The funding comes in separately, so you'll be receiving funding that'll come through as revenue as that funding is received. However, the expenses is another side of it. So the expenses, even if you're receiving funding for it, it's still going to be going through as an expense or increase expenses, albeit it'll be funded from external sources. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thanks. So on the income side, we will see an increase in the grants, although I don't think it increased.
There's sometimes a timing. There's always, sometimes there's a timing issue. You don't necessarily receive the funds in the same year that they're expensed. So that is often the case, and it doesn't have to match. But in the long term, you'd expect that that revenue would be covering those expenses.
Thank you.
All right, councillors, any other?
No, I just wanted to sort of elaborate on that, and I don't know if it's a question for ARC staff or for the auditors, but it is a big reduction in the grants and contributions for operating purposes, down from 18.6 to 11.2 this year. And I was just wondering, and usually it doesn't mean, because you actually do it you now record it in the year of expenditure. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that will happen next year, or is any reason for that?
Through the GM to Mr. Paul.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think the answer to your question is twofold. One is, in the 2024 financial year, we received a one-off grant that had to be declared as operating income, even though we couldn't incur any of the expenditure for it. Some people might remember it as being the pothole grant, although it's not allowed to be referred to as that. And the second thing is that in this 24-25 year, the federal government didn't pay the financial assistance grant to the same extent that it had in the prior year. I think in the prior year it was 100%, this year it was only 50%, or it might have been 75-50. So that actually is a reduction. In both of those instances, you have to declare all of the income, even though you may not have incurred the expenditure. So there can be some timing differences for those grants. And in fact, the expenditure for the pothole grant came into the 24-25 year. So that is one of the reasons why the expenditure is up in that year, related to income from the prior year.
Could I ask another question, which is probably again relating to ARC staff rather than the auditors? And this is, I can't remember what we've budgeted for employee costs this year. I know that from looking at the audited financial statements that the expenditure was 33.33 million this year compared to 28.89 last year, and the year before it was 26.64. So that's an increase of 6.69 million over 2 years. And I just wondered if, how we were going to manage that in this year's budget and the future budget, how our employee costs were going to track. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, happy to take that one on notice. Thank you.
All righty, councillors, any other questions for our auditors? Thank you very much, Barry and Michael. We will let you go and enjoy the rest of your day. Okay, councillors, back on track. No, Councillor Michael? No. All right, councillors, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour of adopting those minutes? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Then item 7.1. This is the standing item, which is a guide to councillors in terms of making ethical decisions, and councillors being asked to note the report. Could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Enders. Second to Councillor Redwood. Councillor Enders, anything to say on that? Councillor Redwood? Thank you. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of noting the report? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 7.2 is the ordinary council meeting cycle for 2026. So the report is recommending that the schedule for these ordinary council meetings be consistent with the past year and are held on the fourth Wednesday of each month starting at 4 p.m. We have details on page 7 of the agenda. And I have a mover to get an item on. Thanks, Councillor Robinson. A seconder. Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Councillor Robinson, anything to say? Okay, Redwood. Councillor Redwood? No. Right, councillors, all those in favour of adopting that? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 7.3 is the Council Actions Report, which summarises the actions taken on Council resolutions since October 2024. So Council is being asked to note this report. we have details on page 9 of the agenda and page 16 of the attachments. Can I have a mover for a motion, please? Thanks, Councillor McMichael, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Ryman. Councillor McMichael, anything in terms of the council actions report?
Just to say that it's terrific to see that the restoration of the Armadale Creeklands is progressing. It looks fabulous, and look forward to seeing it open soon.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Ahmed? All right, okay, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Councillors, good to see item 8.1 back on deck, the cash and investment report. So this one provides an overview of the cash and investments for the month of July 2025 with details from page 10 of the agenda. And councillors being asked to note that report. Can I have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Gadders. Seconder. Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Councillor Gadders, anything you wish to say?
Just quickly, Mr Mayor, also note that this is a July report in November, so look forward to the future reports as they come through. Where obviously this is an income stream that we want to keep a very close eye on, especially when it comes to keeping that unrestricted cash alive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Redwood. All right, councillors, all those in favour of noting that report? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 8.2 follows on from what we just heard from the Audit Office, and this is the presentation of the financial statements. So it's just requesting Council note the report on the presentation of the financial statements. For those watching at home, details are from page 16 of the agenda and page 35 of the attachments. So can I have a mover for this, please? Thanks, Councillor Enders, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Councillor Enders, anything? No. Councillor Redwood. All right, councillors, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 9.1 is the outcome of the public exhibition of the naming of Armadale CBD laneways. So following a period of public exhibition, Council is being asked to receive and note the submissions, adopt the recommended names and allocate funding to embellish the laneways. So this is a very interesting project. Details are from page 19 of the agenda. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Robinson, and seconded by Councillor McMichael. Councillor Robinson, anything you wish to say?
Yes, it's very, very pleasing to see that there was a lot of community support for this and a lot of community interaction, and that some of the names and some of them were slightly changed in response to the community responses and submissions. So I think this is a win-win outcome, and I look forward to all the embellishments in these laneways to make them really attractive.
Terrific, thank you. Councillor McMichael.
I agree with my fellow councillor, and yes, it's pleasing to see that there'll be some symmetry with the names, and yes, I look forward to the naming.
Thank you. Councillors, does anyone else wish to say anything to this? Councillor Witters.
Yes, great to see people taking interest in this. I was really interested in the submission that recommended 9 alternative names, I think, 8 alternative names, some of them being Serenity Lane, Goodwill Lane, Concord Lane, Patience Lane was really good, I thought that was, and Compassion Lane. My only concern with this is, and it comes down to history, and I think exhibition about learning a bit of history about the Wellington Hotel or whatever it was. I'd really like to see that lane still stay the Wellington, whether it goes from Wellington Walkway or Wellington Lane. I noticed this morning when reading this that some people were saying that it's basically synonymous with Tattersalls. It's been around forever. But there's also a history of having dual place names, and with dual place names, it opens up the history of more things. Tattersalls, I think, is always going to be synonymous with that area because of the pub there and the history of it. But getting an understanding of what was there beforehand and getting, I'm hoping that with these lanes there's some information that's put at the entries of some of these laneways of why it was chosen originally to be Wellington, whether it goes from Wellington Walkway or to Wellington Way. Armadale itself is a classic example of having dual place names. It had a name before it was called Armidale. Be sure from memory it was called, this part of the town was called Alpine. Now develops Guttum Burrumby. So there is precedent there of understanding that things were around before, even though it's been a long time. That this council, for example, has been through a few iterations of Armidale City, Armidale to American, now Armidale Regional. So I would love for the history of this town and getting people to understand a little bit more about it and learning more that that laneway actually stays Wellington, whether it goes to Wellington Lane or Wellington Walkway. But otherwise, pretty happy with the outcome of the public exhibition.
Brilliant. Thank you. Councillors, anyone else? All right, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Thank you. I declare that carried 8-1, but I'm sure we'll note Councillor Witter's comments. Councillors, item 9.2 is in relation to a request to purchase a road reserve at Innisfree Lane. So the details are from page 34 of the agenda and 138 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen. We will need a mover to bring this to life. So thank you. I move Councillor Gatters, seconded Councillor Redwood. Councillor Gatters, anything to say here?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, look, upon reading the information in here as well as attachments, I think the recommendation is a good one. So thank you, staff.
Thank you. Councillor Redwood? No. All right, councillors, anyone else wish to?
I've got a question for the staff. Is there, and I don't know the proper terminology for it, is there a chance that this will be acquired, the state can acquire the land and say it's for their purposes? Or is it, I think it's a land acquisition or something from the state? Compulsory land acquisition, yeah. Is there a chance of that if we say no, that because this project is not this one but the next one, I suppose it goes for both really, but any chance of anything where council says no on any of these sort of ones, this one and the next one, there's a chance of that happening?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor. I think the short answer is I don't know. Obviously, the rationale around the Innisfree Lane report is that we haven't done any strategic planning in that area, so we don't know if we need to maintain access or maintain it as a public road. In regards to the Oven Mountain Pumped Hydro project, that would be best directed to Mr. Manners when that item comes before Council.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, anyone else wish to speak to this?
I'd just like to say it's important to recognise public access and roads and routes. You know, as much as we want to, put fences around and chop things up, public access. For example, today a number of the councillors walked around the routes in the parks that a number of the SNILC and ORG, the tree groups, have been planting for 50 years. And it's terrific to see spaces that we can all enjoy. So, yes, public access is terrific. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, councillors, if there's no other comment, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Councillors, item 9.3, which is again a request to purchase part of the council-owned road for the Oven Mountain Pumped Hydro. Details for this are page 37 of the agenda and page 39 of the attachments. Here again, there is a recommendation there on the screen. It's quite detailed. Probably important to note that 9.3, point B of that to hold further discussions around that. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Seconded, Councillor Witters. Councillor Redwood, anything to say on this?
As was the case with my colleague next to me here with a previous item, it's important that we listen to the staff here and the recommendation that's been made. I know that Armidale wore the reputation for a long time as the place that said no. I don't think that this should be interpreted as the people that keep saying no. We're saying no at the moment, but looking for an alternative to be able to find the solution that will get the particular proponent what they need. So happy to go with the recommendation here.
Thank you. Councillor Witters.
Couple of things. Good to see councillors supporting staff on this one, but back to my previous question, I suppose, Mr. Manners, it was your turn to would this come to a point where it would be compulsory land acquisition if the state government said we need to use that part of the land?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Witters, I'm just not aware of the legislation and the circumstances in which it could be applied. So the short answer is, again, the same as Mr. Boyce is, I don't know.
Are we able to get it on notice and get a report back on whether that's a possibility?
Right, thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that the main issue is to provide access, and access should be always available on public roads, and that's what the point B of the discussion is, to hold discussions about maintaining and providing legal access. And if there is a problem with that, it can always come back to council, but it's better to keep these things in public hands because we don't really know what the future will be, and you don't want to give away roads that then you suddenly find you really do need access later on for another purpose.
Thank you. Councillor Ahmed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to the legal access being sought with the further discussion, what is termed by legal access in comparison to physical access? And for these purposes, what would the alternative be if the staff can elaborate? Is there a way through for this road or this access to be provided?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor. So what is meant by the legal access? It's the right to conduct work and have structures in the roadway. So under the Roads Act, Section 138 allows council as the roads authority to provide permission to have works and structures in the roadway. And my understanding is that the section of the roadway in which is proposed to be accessed for a private road is fit for purpose for that particular approval. By other, there may be an opportunity for council, by way of permission by the landholder, by the general manager, so permission to work on lands owned and operated by council.
Now, are they seeking exclusively private access, or can we dictate that they rehabilitate the road and be shared access?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor. They're seeking it for a private access only. The construction of the road that they're proposing is only to the standard of a local haul road for the purposes of construction and maintaining the infrastructure that Oven Mountain are putting in place. It's not fit for purpose for the kinds of traffic and the standards that we would expect for a public road that we would put in place.
Councillors, any other questions, queries, comments? Right, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Robinson, where were you? For or against? Thank you. All right, I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 9.4, finalisation of the planning proposal number 25. So the report is asking council to consider the submissions received during public exhibition, along with the determination from the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure, and endorse this proposal. Details are from page 40 of the agenda and 143 of the attachments. There is a recommendation, quite detailed, on the screen. Could I have a mover, please? For that, thanks, Councillor Redwood. Second to Councillor Gadders. Councillor Redwood. Anything to say here?
Yeah, I mean, this is an important change for us to make in the LEP, and you know, it's going to assist us moving forward to be able to make the determinations without these having to come to council each time that they need to be made. So, you know, a sensible piece of work that's been put together, and yeah, supported.
Brilliant. Thank you. Councillor Gaze? Right. Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to speak against this, but I can really understand the concerns of the residents out there. When that development was first done, it was designed to be a larger lot, you know, for each resident, and I just feel it's a bit of a shame, but I can understand why this has happened. But I'd like to just acknowledge their concerns. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Right, councillors, any other comment? Let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 9.5 is in relation to an extension of the lease to Backtrack Youth Works. The report is asking council to consider a request for Backtrack to enter into consecutive lease arrangements of the premises they currently occupy. We have details from page 52 of the agenda and 393 of the attachments. There's a recommendation on the screen. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood, and seconded Councillor Robinson. Councillor Redwood, anything you wish to say to this?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is an important agreement to be made for Backtrack. As is mentioned in there, the chair of Backtrack approached me a couple of months ago just to discuss the possibility of being able to secure something more permanent so that the investments that Backtrack puts into that particular lot of land are more secure for their future. And so I think it's a sensible option for us to go down this pathway to enable the staff to secure a lease and the necessary insurances that go with that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Redwood. Councillor Robinson.
Yes, we hope Backtrack will be around for a long, long time to come. So why not just give them a long-term lease? And they are going to make substantial investments in that site. So it makes sense. It's a win-win for the community who benefit from Backtrack, and it's a win-win from council because we have security.
Excellent, thank you. Right, anyone else wish to speak to this?
Question for the staff in regards to the actual lot and what's proposed to be on the whole lot. It's mentioned in the report that the social housing program or social housing thing with was St Vincent de Paul is on the backside of that lot, and whether it affects it. Is there a possibility that because the backside of that lot, where on the northern side of the creek comes off the end of Simmons Street, whether there can be a change of address for that part of the lot and into a Simmons Street address to sort of not be affected by this part of what's being proposed here?
Voice.
Through Mr. Mayor, thanks, Councillor. Look, I think longer term the solution is a subdivision with a new street address, exactly as you outlined, Councillor Witters. I think we'll see how the social affordable housing project progresses with St Vincent de Paul. In the meantime, we are able to structure a lease that nominates an area on a parent lot that is leased to Backtrack. So it's not necessarily going to complicate the lease process, but I do think longer term, the cleanest way is to subdivide the lot, have one facing the secondary street frontage, and then we're leasing an entire parent lot to Backtrack then.
Thank you. Councillors, if there is no further comment, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 10.1 is in relation to the annual report. So the item is seeking council's endorsement of the 24-25 annual report, which is our report back to our stakeholders, being the community, government and others, for that particular period. We have details from page 55 of the agenda and 419 of the attachments. Can I have a mover for the recommendation on the screen, please? Thanks, Councillor Enders, and seconded by Councillor Robinson. Councillor Enders, anything to say? Councillor Robinson?
I encourage everybody to read the annual report. This is a lot of the stuff that's happening in council, and knowing what's happening and what you'd like to improve or what you'd like to change in next year is very, very interesting. So I think everybody should read it, and if they have any feedback, let us know. And for the financial statements, we also have a clean copy where you don't have to turn your head sideways to read it. So if you want to read the financial statements, there's another version if you want it on the council's website. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, councillors, anyone else wish to speak? Councillor McMichael.
Yes, look, I thought it was a really great reading. I thought that in fact, there were some fabulous projects in there, everything from volunteering to new bridges to the Lower Creek Community Field Day. Thanks to the staff for creating the report, and I hope everyone does read it, and like Councillor Robinson said, if you've got some suggestions, let us know. Yeah, great, thanks.
Thank you. All right, councillors, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. 10.2, annual disclosure for Councillor Enders. The recommendation is that council note the tabling of the disclosure and the details on page 57 of the agenda and 596 of the attachments. Can I have a move, please? Thanks, Councillor McMichael. Seconded. Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Councillor McMichael, nothing to say? Councillor Redwood? Right. All those in favour of noting that? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 11.1, an endorsement of local government procurement panel. So the item is seeking council endorsement of a list of tenderers as a panel of contractors for specialised roadworks through until December 2028. We have details on page 59 of the agenda and 590 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen, but can I have a mover, please? Thanks. Councillor Redwood, seconded Councillor Gadders. Councillor Redwood, anything to say in that regard?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Gadders? Right, if there's no further comment, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Councillors, 11.2 is the Kempsey Road status report. So whilst it's a regular report, it is this particular item notes quite a few milestones. The details are from page 37 of the agenda and 750 of the attachments, but it should be noted, and what's most important is that the tender went live on the 11th of November. There's been significant investment and support from various levels of the state, which is great. It's taken 30 plus people, including contractors, consultants and 8 different project directors to get to this stage. And it's one of those really interesting milestones. What's a great outcome for us as a council, and Mr. Manners, whose title escapes me, Corgi, Chief Officer, Growth and Regional Infrastructure. It's a fantastic thing. So from me, well done, and on behalf of the community, well done. There is a recommendation there on the screen that is quite bland, but could I have a move, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Seconded. Thanks, Councillor Imat. Councillor Redwood.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, reiterate those words about the size, the scale, the complexity of the project and the amount of effort that's gone into it just so far to be able to get it to this stage. So well done to all involved, and look forward to the continuation and the eventual reopening of this journey to Kempsey.
Brilliant. Thank you. Councillor Imat. Right, councillors, if there's nothing else, I note that Mr. Nixon has just arrived to see this go through. So all those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Final item in this open section of council is 13.1, which is the Traffic Advisory Committee meeting, where we are being asked to note the minutes from the 5th of November and also some of the specific actions. Details from page 68 of the agenda and 599 of the attachments. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor McMichael. A seconder. Thanks, Councillor Robinson. Councillor McMichael, what's been happening with traffic?
We've got a couple of events. We have the New England Antique Machinery Club Tractor Run, which is happening, no, it happened, on the 14th of November. We'd like to endorse the special transport plan for the Cycling Club. They've got their weekly road races all next year. And we've had a no parking zone changed into a loading zone on Devereux Street near the old Wicklow to make things easier for everybody. And I'd just like to remind everyone that last month we agreed to the Christmas events, which are happening next week on Thursday in Armidale and Friday in Guyra. And I hope everyone turns up because I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, councillors, all those in favour of noting those minutes? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, this brings us to the end of the open session. Can I please have a motion to move into closed? Thank you. Moved. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare. Back into open. Councillors, welcome back into the open section of council. I will ask the General Manager to read out the resolutions of the closed session.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. One item in closed council, 15.1, the procurement process to appoint financial advisory services for the Kempsey to Armidale Road project. Resolved by council that council accept the submission provided by BDO Services Proprietary Limited for the provision of financial advisory services for the Kempsey Armidale Road restoration project at an estimated cost of $1,924,443.05 inclusive of GST. B, that they delegate authority to the General Manager to approve expenditure to the upper limit of available funding for the project, and C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute and manage all documents in relation to the contract. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Councillors, there being no further business, I declare this meeting closed at